time. And honestly, if anyone out there gets a chance to see Seth play, and not to toot your horn a little bit.
Dude, thank you so much, man.
Hey, you're buddy.
I love playing. Basically, music is my life. Like, I collect records. I listen to so many different styles of music, and I just love playing the bass guitar. For me, music is like nothing else other than just the love of it. As far as like being in a band and all of those things, I'm not really into all of the extracurricular things that a lot of like people in bands are into. I'm kind of in it. I'm kind of in it for the music. So that's me. And I love to, practice and overthink things and geek out on parts and just like, that's kind of my world. But, and how about you?
Right.
How did you, I don't even know. How did you kind of start playing music?
Okay. Well, so I actually started playing music. See, you were 99, you were a freshman in high school. So that means I was already a sophomore or junior in high school at that point. But I actually started playing music back in 6th grade. So I was about 11 or 12. Actually, I think I was 11 years old.
Wow.
No one in my family actually can carry a tune in a bucket to save their lives. So I decided one day, after talking with my father, who just burped, that was lovely. I was talking with my dad, who played drums in high school, and he was part of like the drum corps and the concert band and all that stuff. So he was like, "You should play drums. You should play drums." And I was like, "You know what? Yeah, I kind of thought about it for a minute, but then my grandfather brought me a Dizzy Gillespie CD, or tape back then.
Nice.
And I listened to Dizzy Gillespie, and I literally said, I need to play trumpet. I need to learn to play the trumpet. I need to know how to make that sound. So I started playing trumpet, and I actually I've played trumpet for over, actually 26 years now.
Wow.
I have taken a little bit of a break. I'm getting back into it. But doing that, like I played all through middle school and high school in concert bands. I was a band geek and went to band camp. So
nice. What happens at band camp stays at band camp.
Yeah, unfortunately. So doing that was, fun, exciting. But
That's awesome.
I decided while I was in high school, I wanted to try to learn another instrument. So I saved up money, and I actually bought a bass guitar. I took a couple lessons from my uncle and was going to start a band. It was going to be heavy, hard rock, stuff. And I realized, like, getting into it, taking like 3 lessons was not the right idea. So I kind of was trying to play bass in a band, and one of the guys in the band was like, "Hey, our singer, we don't have one really. Why don't you try that?" So I was like, "Well, I don't know if I can sing." And they're like, "Yeah, you'll be fine. You got this. You can sing." So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been singing now for over 20 years. I'd say probably like 22 years. Currently, I sing with Trawl. I also have another band called Devil's Night Out. I just love playing music for the love of it and the feel and emotion that music can do. It's something that can't be touched by anything else in this world, and it's fun. It's a good release for everybody involved, and
I agree, man.
I like that. I play video games. I love reading comic books. I collect really off-kilter stuff, and yeah, that's pretty much me.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I didn't know that you played bass first. I didn't know that you had ever picked up a bass kind of first. That's cool.
Yeah, it was funny. I tried, and like I said, I bought a Suzuki P bass. It was the first bass I ever bought. I actually bought it at Daddy's Junkie Music over in like the Westbrook Portland line. I went there, and I literally threw down, like, I want to say like $50, and I just kept going back. I'd mow lawns, I'd help around my house, like I did chores and all this stuff, and saved up whatever allowance or money I earned, and I bought the bass guitar. And honestly, it was probably the biggest hunk of shit
My first bass was too.
I'd ever purchased in my life. But honestly, I loved it until I fixed it up quite a bit. I had a couple guys that I knew who do that stuff too. They fixed it up. I ended up selling it many years ago to a good friend of mine who I haven't spoken to in a while.
Nice.
Because he wanted to start playing again, and I sold it to him for $5 just because
to put it in good hands.
He's a friend. Well, he was a friend. I knew he could play bass. Him and I actually worked together at a little Italian restaurant in South Portland, Maine, for a couple of years together, and he was just a good friend of mine that he wanted to get back into it.
That's cool. So my first bass guitar I bought at Carol's Music in Lewiston, and it was like, I think I paid like $80 for it. It was a jazz bass copy, so it was like a fake jazz bass, and it was a Biscayne. Biscayne, which I've like never since ever seen one ever. You know, like this was literally the only time I've ever seen a Biscayne California style jazz bass. It was a black jazz bass, but it looked just like, you know, like the one I have now, kind of like a black Geddy Lee style jazz bass, but action was like terrible. You could drive a truck through the action, like could never fix it. I think the neck was warped to begin with, and like I think
everyone's first instrument wasn't the best one, so that's okay.
Right. And you know, like you have, like I didn't know any better. I just like, I think that's why I play slap bass, is because like the action on the thing was so high, so like you literally had to just beat the hell out of it in order to get anything out of it. And the other weird,
but that's cool though. You learned a style not by trying to imitate the style, but just because that's how you started to learn to play. It's kind of like I can hold a rhythm with drums, but I just kind of figured out what to do. I'm actually not very good at it, but I can do it if I put my mind to it.
The other weird thing is so like I saved up to buy an electric bass, but I didn't have enough money to buy an amp. So I played an electric bass with no amp for the first 6 months I played, until Christmas time, and my dad bought me this little practice amp, which then I had until a few years ago, until it finally quit. But so what I would do is I would put my chin on the upper horn of the bass, and the notes would reverberate through your head.
Yeah, it vibrates in your jaw, and you can hear the tones. Yeah, I did that too for a long time.
So I'd literally like be playing this bass that had like a terrible action with my chin on the top thing, just beating the hell out of it, like trying to figure out how this thing works. And
so I just looked up, and it says we're at 7 minutes and 40 seconds, but it's not moving the timer.
Weird. Mine says 15:30. Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, we have the ability to edit stuff out and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
this is an experiment. We're not good at this yet. So
we're still learning. We're in the beginning phases. So again, we're planning to do a lot of stuff with this podcast. We're going to talk about some of our friends' bands first off, because we have a lot of friends in our local music scene, and actually kind of more regionally, we have some really good friends down in like
Connecticut.
I know I have some in Florida that are in bands. Connecticut. I know some people over in California. So we're going to kind of try to touch on like local music scenes and just try to get people to understand, like, or not even understand, but to realize what's out there besides these big national acts that we all love and adore and pay, you know, sometimes too much money to go see, and kind of get you interested in seeing the local little guys who are you know, playing $5 or $10 shows and doing some pretty cool stuff. We do plan on having a bunch of guests. I mean, I could probably rattle off about 50 names of people that I want to get on here and talk. But not only that, we're going to try to talk about other stuff. You know, we'll try to keep all the political and anything that may be somewhat controversial out, because honestly, that's not how we really roll anymore. We're very much about just being good, happy, positive people. And despite the current status of the world, whatever time you may listen to this, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Actually, that's one of our
Yeah,
songs.
absolutely. I agree.
And it's we want to make people just have a good time. We want to make sure people are happy. We want to get you engaged and talking. Like, we want to make sure that you're not just like kind of putting something like putting this on, for an example, and just leaving it on the background and not listening. If you do, that's fine. But we want to get people involved. Like, we'll talk about, like I said, comic books. Like I said, I collect weird stuff. So, we might talk about collections and video games and,
So
books, restaurants.
Sean and I discovered I think we were driving to like our second show, and we carpooled. This was the first time we'd ever carpooled, and we just started talking about, all the random stuff we love, and it became like pretty apparent that like we grew up on a lot of the same stuff. There's a lot of like these weird bands that nobody else knows about. Like, talk about like
the obscure stuff that like literally somehow you and I are the only two people in our like band that even has heard of these people, and
connect on these bands that like nobody's heard of. And I was like, dude, it would be amazing to just sit down and like talk, do a podcast. There's so many things about each other we don't even know yet.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is we'll get to know each other better through this process. And it's also kind of funny because that second road trip, or that first road trip, that second show, we played Laconia, New Hampshire. That was the night you and I came up with the term Trawloween, because we were starting to talk about wanting to do a big Halloween show and a year, because it's actually both of our favorite times of year. It's our favorite holiday. And funny story is, literally a year later, we actually had a show on that same date, and it was a Halloween show, and we just kind of laughed about it. But we've been talking, well over a year now about doing this podcast, so we're actually extremely excited and can't wait for everyone out there to hear it and give us, pointers, tips, and tricks.
We're new at this, so we're gonna be shaky at it at first, but I'm cool with that. I just want to have fun and like get people involved and ask us questions. I want to answer questions.
Yeah, if you've got show ideas, like you want to hear about, exactly what type of gear Seth's using on stage, or, you want to know who like my musical influences are, or, what Seth's favorite cereal is, don't be afraid to ask, because we want to just open up a conversation and talk and have fun. That's the main thing. We're not going to bring any negativity into this. We want to make sure everyone's having a good time, and we want to make people really enjoy the day. So give us a shot. If you like us, awesome. If you don't, that's fine too, but we hope you get something out of our conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I have for this first episode. You got anything else?
Nothing else. Just basically like we need some catchphrases. So if you have any ideas for catchphrases, no, just basically mirroring what Sean's saying. Just want this to be really fun. We want to geek out. We want to go down some rabbit holes on like the stuff that we love, or if you guys have some thoughts, or we just basically want to make it interactive, fun, and something to get away from all of, like Sean said, all of the divisiveness, all of the politics, and all the crap that's out there, So
we want to have a good time, people. That's all that we want to do. So I guess from now, we'll probably try to figure out a good schedule for everyone. It may be a release on like a Monday morning type of situation, and maybe a Sunday. We don't know yet. We're still working out the finer details behind the scenes. But other than that, My name's Sean Matthews from the band
I'm
Trawl.
Seth McClellan.
This is my buddy. There he is. Thank you for listening to TrawlCast, and we hope you guys enjoy the future episodes and what we have to bring.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.